begins in a single breath, a spark behind the ribs, something small, almost invisible. But within seconds, that spark becomes a storm. You feel your heartbeat quicken, your vision narrow. The world shrinks into a single point, a word, a face, a memory, and suddenly all you can see is the injustice of it, the insult, the betrayal, the thing you cannot control. Anger, in its first form, feels like strength. It gives us energy when we feel powerless, purpose when we feel lost. It burns beautifully, dangerously, as if the fire itself were proof that we are still alive. But what we forget is this: fire doesn't choose what it destroys, and the first thing it consumes is the one who carries it. In that instant, happiness becomes a stranger. Peace becomes unreachable, and what's left is a hollow ache, the illusion of control wrapped in the smoke of pain. The ancients called anger a poison of the mind. Modern science calls it a chemical storm. But whatever name we give it, one truth remains. Anger doesn't protect us. It imprisons us. So the question is not how to control anger. The real question is, why do we keep choosing it, even when it hurts us most? We live in an age that celebrates expression. Speak your truth, they say. Don't hold it in. We post our outrage, tweet our frustrations, raise our voices in meetings, and call it authenticity. But somewhere along the way, anger became the language of modern life. Scroll through social media and you'll see it. A digital battlefield of opinions sharpened like knives. Every comment section, a war zone disguised as discussion. Every headline designed to ignite rather than inform. We feed on outrage the way our ancestors fed on fire, for warmth, for power, for survival. But this time the flames are inside us. We tell ourselves that our anger is righteous, that it means we care, that we're awake, that we're not indifferent. And maybe that's true, at first. But then it starts to take something from us. A little calm, a little compassion, a little sleep at night. Soon we find ourselves addicted to the very emotion that destroys our peace. We get angry at strangers on screens, at systems we can't change, at people who don't even know we exist. It gives us a hit of purpose, a fleeting sense of, I'm right, followed by the emptiness of, nothing changed. In this modern world, we confuse intensity with importance. We mistake emotional fire for moral light. And so the louder we burn, the less we see. The paradox is painful. We think expressing our anger frees us, yet it chains us to what hurt us. We think holding anger shows strength, yet it reveals our deepest vulnerability. We think it connects us to others who understand, yet it isolates us within the echo chamber of our own fury. And deep down, beneath the noise and fire, there's something fragile, a quiet grief we don't name. Because anger, at its core, is almost always a cry of pain disguised as power. We lash out because we don't know how to reach out. We shout because we don't know how to say, I'm hurt. We destroy because we're terrified of being destroyed. In the silence after the shouting, when the notifications fade and the adrenaline drains, we're left alone with ourselves. And that's when the truth whispers. This isn't power. This isn't protection. This is suffering, cleverly disguised as self-defense. We live in a world that teaches us how to succeed, how to compete, how to win. But almost no one teaches us how to let go. We chase happiness like a destination, never realizing it can't live in a heart full of resentment. And yet, anger promises something seductive: control. But every time we feed it, we lose control of the one thing that truly matters: our peace. So before we ask how to eliminate anger, perhaps we should ask something simpler. What is anger trying to protect within us? And is there another way to listen, without letting it burn us alive? There's an ancient saying: holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It sounds cliché now, something we scroll past. But if you let those words sink in, you realize how hauntingly true they are. Anger doesn't live in the world. It lives in us. It doesn't burn others. It burns the heart that holds it. When we are angry, the body becomes a battlefield. The heart races. The muscles tighten. The breath shortens. The brain floods with adrenaline and cortisol, survival chemicals meant for moments of danger. But most of the time, we're not in danger. We're in traffic. We're reading a message. We're remembering something from 10 years ago. And yet the body doesn't know the difference between a tiger in the jungle and a thought in the mind. It fights ghosts as if they were real. This is the cruel brilliance of anger. It convinces us that reacting will make us free, when in truth, it binds us to the past. It turns memory into prison. And the more we revisit the pain, the deeper the bars sink into our soul. So what can we do? How do we stop fighting shadows? The answer begins with awareness, not suppression. Because anger isn't evil, it's misunderstood. It's not the fire itself that destroys, but our inability to sit beside it without feeding it more wood. Imagine this. You're sitting before a fire on a cold night. If you feed it endlessly, it will consume everything: your shelter, your peace, your sleep. If you ignore it completely, it dies, leaving you shivering in the dark. But if you tend to it with patience, with mindfulness, it becomes warmth, light, guidance. Anger is no different. It's energy, raw, sacred, unrefined. When left untended, it scorches everything we love. But when met with understanding, it transforms into clarity. Anger says, something's not fair. Wisdom answers, then let's bring balance. Anger says, they hurt me. Compassion replies, then let's stop the cycle. This is the transformation that every spiritual tradition has pointed to turn fire into light, reaction into reflection. The Buddha called anger a dart we stab into ourselves. The Stoics called it temporary madness. Modern psychology calls it a secondary emotion, meaning it arises to protect something deeper: fear, grief, shame, loss. In truth, anger is rarely about the moment we think caused it. It's about an older wound, something unresolved that still aches beneath the surface. When a friend forgets your birthday, it's not the date that hurts. It's the whisper of, "I'm not important." When someone criticizes you online, it's not the words. It's the echo of, "I'm not enough." Anger is the body's way of saying, "There's pain here. Look." But most of us never look. We attack instead, because attacking feels safer than feeling. Still, when we dare to look beneath the fire, we discover something astonishing. Our anger isn't trying to destroy us. It's trying to protect our tenderness. It's the wounded guardian of the heart. So the path isn't to fight anger. It's to listen to it. then let it rest. Silence can do what shouting never can. In silence, the heat has room to cool. In silence, the truth has room to rise. In silence, forgiveness begins to breathe. But silence doesn't mean passivity. It means presence. It's the courage to stand in the middle of the storm and not let it own you. And that is true strength. Not the ability to strike, but the ability to stay soft when the world grows hard. We think strength is about resistance, but real strength is about release. It's about learning to unclench the fist that's been gripping pain for too long. Because as long as we hold on, we can't receive anything new. Not peace, not joy, not love. Anger narrows the world. Forgiveness expands it. Anger blinds. Understanding restores sight. Anger divides. Awareness reunites. So when you feel anger rise, don't rush to extinguish it. Instead, become the observer. Notice the heat, the tightness, the pulse, and whisper to yourself, "This is what protection feels like." Then ask, "What am I protecting?" You may discover that beneath your anger lies a broken expectation, a story of how things should have been, a version of life that didn't unfold the way you planned. And that's okay, because once you name it, once you meet your own pain with gentleness, the anger begins to dissolve on its own, not by force, but by understanding. You begin to see that the real enemy of happiness isn't anger itself. It's our unconscious attachment to it. It's the identity we build around being the one who was wronged. We wear our wounds like armor, forgetting that armor also keeps love out. The truth is simple, but not easy. You cannot be both angry and at peace at the same time. You must choose which world to live in. And every time you let anger pass through you instead of speaking through you, you free yourself a little more. A little more air, a little more light, a little more life. So perhaps anger isn't the enemy after all. Perhaps it's the teacher, one that keeps returning until we finally learn the lesson. Because beneath every flare of rage is a hidden invitation to stop fighting the world and start healing within. The fire you fight may not be outside you. There once was a man who lived in a small mountain village, known by everyone for his temper. He wasn't cruel, just quick to burn. If his neighbor's goat wandered onto his land, he shouted. If his son dropped a bowl, he scolded. If the rain ruined his crops, he cursed the sky. Yet when he was alone, the anger didn't fade. It sat inside him like a stone in his chest, heavy, unmoving. He didn't know how to be free of it, only how to feed it. One night, after another argument with his family, the man wandered into the forest to calm down. But the deeper he walked, the darker it became. The wind whispered through the trees, and the path vanished beneath the fog. He stumbled until he found a small hut, old, wooden, lit by a single candle. Inside sat an old monk, silent, brewing tea. The man, embarrassed but exhausted, said, "Master, I'm lost. I can't stop being angry. Everything offends me. People, the world, even myself." The monk poured 2 cups of tea and handed one over. "Then drink," he said softly. The man lifted the cup, but it was scalding. He yelped, spilling tea on his hands. The monk didn't move. He simply asked, "Did the tea burn you?" "Of course it did," the man shouted. "It's boiling." The monk nodded. And yet, who chose to hold it? The man froze. The question struck deeper than any sermon could. He realized that every time he held on to anger, he was holding something too hot to carry, and blaming the world for the burns. The monk stood and pointed to the candle burning beside them. "Fire is not evil," he said. "It cooks your food, lights your way, warms your home. But touch it and it burns. The same is true for anger. Use it to see clearly, but do not carry it in your hands." The man looked down at his blistered fingers, small, stinging, temporary, and understood that his real wounds were the invisible ones he'd been nursing for years. He stayed with the monk that night. They spoke little, but he watched the flame of the candle as it danced. Calm, contained, unwavering. By morning, something inside him had softened. The sun rose over the mountain, and for the first time in years he felt its warmth without resentment. He returned to his village and apologized, not with words at first, but with silence. He started tending the garden he had neglected. He helped his son with his chores. And whenever he felt anger rising, he imagined that cup of hot tea and chose to set it down. Months passed. People began to notice a change. The man still spoke firmly when something was wrong, but his voice no longer carried the sting of fury, only the weight of truth. And in that balance, he found peace. One day, a young villager came to him, trembling with rage after being cheated in the market. He demanded advice. "How do I stop being angry when people treat me unfairly?" The man smiled gently and said, "When someone gives you a burning coal, you don't need to take it. Let it fall. The fire only burns when you decide to hold it." The young man didn't understand. Not yet. But years later, when his own hands had grown weary from grasping the flames of life, he remembered those words. And he, too, learned to let go. In time, the old man's story became a quiet legend in the village, not of a saint or a hero, but of someone who finally learned the simplest truth of all. Anger is not something to conquer. It's something to release. Because peace isn't found by extinguishing every flame. It's found by learning where not to place your hands. And in that understanding, the man who once shouted at the sky finally heard the silence beneath it. And it was beautiful. When the fire inside you no longer burns to destroy, it begins to light your way. Anger is such a human thing. We all know its heat. That flash behind the eyes, that pulse in the throat, that moment when the world narrows down to a single sentence, "This isn't fair." But what if, in those moments, anger isn't calling us to attack, but to awaken? What if it's trying to lead us somewhere deeper, to something we've been avoiding? Think of every time you've exploded in rage, only to feel hollow afterward. That emptiness isn't failure, it's the echo of truth. The truth that what you really wanted wasn't revenge, it was understanding. You didn't want to destroy. You wanted to be seen. You didn't want to hurt. You wanted to heal. That's the secret no one tells you about anger. Beneath its roar lies a heartbreak too tender to name. We get angry because we care. We care about fairness, respect, love, safety. But without awareness, caring curdles into control. And in trying to protect our hearts, we end up hardening them. Pause for a moment. Feel your breath. Notice how even now, in stillness, something inside you softens when you stop fighting. That's what anger is trying to teach you. Not how to destroy, but how to surrender. Because surrender isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's realizing that you can't force peace into existence through fury. You can only allow it. In the deepest silence, you see it clearly. Anger and happiness cannot coexist. One is a clenched fist, the other is an open palm. And life is constantly asking you, which will you choose to live with? Forgiveness isn't saying what happened was okay. It's saying, I won't let this own me anymore. It's releasing the chain that keeps the past tied to the present. And the moment you do, you feel something incredible. Not relief, but return. A return to yourself. We often think happiness is something we need to chase, build, or earn. But happiness was never gone. It was just hidden behind the smoke of our own fire. When you finally stop feeding the flame, the air clears, and you see it. The quiet beauty that was always there. The sound of your own breath. The light on the floor. The small grace of being alive in this exact moment. Anger may have felt like power once, but peace is real strength. The strength to stay calm when provoked. The strength to be kind when the world is cruel. The strength to hold your own heart without letting it harden. And in that stillness, something miraculous happens. The thing you were fighting for, respect, understanding, love, comes to you effortlessly. Because peace attracts what anger always repels. So perhaps the true victory isn't in winning an argument, but in keeping your soul intact. And maybe, just maybe, happiness begins the moment you stop needing to be right and start choosing to be free. There's a silence that follows every storm. Not emptiness, but renewal. The kind of quiet where you can finally hear your own heart again. If you've ever felt consumed by anger, toward another, toward life, toward yourself, remember this: you're not broken for feeling it. You're human. Anger was never the enemy. Unconsciousness was. The moment you see your anger, it begins to lose its grip. Awareness is the water that cools the fire. So next time you feel it rising, pause. Don't suppress it. Don't explode. Just witness. Notice where it lives in your body, the chest, the throat, the hands. Breathe into that place. Let the breath say what the mind cannot. It's okay. I see you. I release you. Because every time you choose awareness over reaction, you reclaim a little more of yourself. Every time you choose calm over chaos, you protect your own peace. And in that peace, happiness returns, not as a reward, but as your natural state. You were never meant to live as fire alone. You were meant to be light. So tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself, what anger have I been holding that no longer serves me? And am I ready to set it down? Gently, completely, courageously. Because freedom doesn't come from control. It comes from release. And maybe, just maybe, the doorway to happiness has been waiting all along, right on the other side of letting go. When you let go of anger, you don't lose power. You reclaim it.